One of the most opportune times for the evil one and his band of evils to attack you is while you're sleeping. But how are you supposed to defend yourself against an enemy attack while you're asleep? Literally. And what does the story of Gideon, one of the great judges of Israel, have to do with this unusual, or rather this untalked about attack most people face? I'm going to tell you right now. Hey, I'm author Michael Ramsey, and this is Michael Ramsey Books, where I show people how to transform their ordinary relationship with God into a spiritual one. If you haven't already subscribed on YouTube, be sure to hit the red subscribe button and ring the notification bell now. The evil one is, of course, an opportunist. And what better opportunity could there possibly be than to attack you when you're sound asleep, as if it's not enough that we're under siege all day. In spiritual warfare, it's all about gaining or losing ground. Anytime the enemy gains a foothold, you lose ground. Anytime you get on top of it and foil a scheme or overcome sinful behavior, even a little one, you gain ground. It is the enemy's objective to keep you from doing this, just as it was his objective to keep the children of Israel from gaining ground in the Promised Land. And if you lose too much ground, you're likely to find yourself back in the desert, unable to eat and drink the milk and honey of the kingdom. Judges 7:19. Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, just as they, the Midianites, had just changed the guard. The middle watch began at sunset. In the time before the invention of the light bulb, people went to bed right after it got dark. In other words, just as the Midianites got all snuggled in for the night, Gideon and his men came upon their campsite ready to attack. Verse 20, the three companies blew the trumpets and smashed the jars. Grasping the torches in their left hand and holding their right hands the trumpets they were to blow, they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." While each man held his position around the camp, all the Midianites ran, crying out as they fled. If you were one of the Midianites, you would have no doubt considered this a rude awakening. But wait a minute, I thought we were talking about evils attacking Christians while they're asleep, not Israel attacking enemies while they're asleep. Don't worry, we're getting to that real quick. You see, the key to Joshua 7 is in verse 5. So Gideon took the men down to the water. There the Lord told him, "Separate those who lap water with their tongues as a dog laps from those who kneel down to drink." 300 of them cupped their hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest got down on their knees to drink. The way the Israelites in the military were trained was to cup their hands and dip them in the water. But that's not what most of them did. Most of the men stuck their face in the water and drank like a wild animal. But why is that significant? What difference does the way you drink water make? The idea, which was honored by the Lord, was to always be on guard. If you've got your face in the water, you might as well have your head in the sand. But if you draw the water out by cupping your hands, you can continue to look around and be watchful, even while getting a drink of water. It's also interesting to note this is how vigilant the Lord expects us to be. We are at war with the enemy. We should always be on guard, even when we're asleep. But how do you do that? Genesis 1:16. God made two lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. The greater light is, of course, the sun, and the lesser is, of course, the moon. The light of the moon, the light that governs the night, is nothing more than a reflection of the light that governs the day. When you fall asleep at night, your mind reflects on the day, just like the moon reflects the light of the day. When you fall asleep at night, your mind reflects on the day, just like the moon reflects the light of day. The reason the Midianites fell wasn't because they failed to post guards at night. It's because they weren't paying attention during the day. During the day, Gideon and his men spied on Midian. They readied themselves for the attack. But the Midianites weren't worried about the Israelites. They got this. There were too few of them. Consequently, they had no idea what was coming. The solution to guarding yourself from intrusive thoughts by night is simply by being on guard during the day. If you take care of your thoughts during the day, that is, if you take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ, 2 Corinthians 10:5, your thoughts will take care of you at night. And this week you get a bonus, some practical advice. For most people, the most vulnerable time at night is actually in the morning, the time right before you wake up when you're still half asleep. Mark 1:35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. It's no wonder that we read about Jesus, prophets, and other men of God rising early in the morning. If it is the early morning hour when evils attack, then consider doing what other men of God have done. Even if, like me, you're not a morning person, it's war. Get up, get going, and don't get attacked. Next time, next step. Again, if you haven't already subscribed on YouTube, be sure and do so now so you don't miss a single video. Can't wait until next time. Visit me at michaelramseybooks.com.